Here we go, folks. The Miami Dolphins got their second win in 3 weeks, beating the Falcons, losing to the Ravens, but then beating the Bills. It's the first time Miami beat Buffalo since September of 2022, and now the Dolphins' record has improved to 3-7. But it also makes things very interesting moving forward with the rest of the season. We're going to explain why on today's show. I'm Nick Roloff. This is Dolphins Today. I know a lot of fans are optimistic sometimes, and they're thinking, well, what if we rattle off a big winning streak here and finish the year 10-7 and make the playoffs? Is there a chance for that? Well, let's just start here. There is absolute no world where the Miami Dolphins win the AFC East. The Patriots are running away with it at 8-2. They've got such an easy schedule the rest of the season. You imagine they easily get to about 11 or 12 wins, which would make that impossible for the Miami Dolphins. Heck, the Patriots might win their next 3 games. They play the Jets, the Bengals, and the Giants before their bye week. So, yeah, they'll probably be at 11 wins going into that bye week. But is there a shot at the wild card? No shot at the division for Miami. But if they go 7-0 in their last 7, I know it's crazy to say that. It's very, very unlikely. Could they work their way into the wild card? I've been asked about it on Twitter, been asked about it in our YouTube comments. So I wanted to make this video highlighting the opportunity that Miami has to make the playoffs, as well as what is potentially going to transpire with the rest of this 2025 season. But this is why you subscribe and turn your notifications on, because we drop 2 videos a day, go live 3 times a week, and if you never want to miss any content we put out, got to be subscribed and hit that noti bell. But make sure you have it clicked to all and not just personalized, because if it's personalized, you might not get everything, but you will if you click all. When you look at the Dolphins' remaining schedule, final 8 weeks of the season, on the left is the next 4, on the right is the next 8. Obviously, when you look at the last 8 weeks for Miami, the next quadrant is the easiest. You play the Commanders on a neutral site game this Sunday, where you are 2.5-point favorites against Marcus Mariota and the crew. With the Commanders, by the way, have a bottom 5 defense in football. No Terry McLaurin, no Jaden Daniels. They're in a bad way. But then you have your bye week. And then you come out of your bye, play 2 of the worst 3 teams in football, in the New Orleans Saints and the New York Jets. I firmly believe that the Dolphins are going to win their next 3 games. Like, seriously, I expect Miami to beat Washington this week. I expect them out of a bye week to beat the Saints at home. And I expect them to be able to go on the road and beat the Jets. And if that's the case, you're 6-7 with 4 weeks to go. And then you're at 6-7 and you're thinking to yourself, well, shoot, if we just take it 1 game at a time, we're really not out of the playoff race. We can get to 10-7 potentially. And how about this as well, folks? In each of the first 3 seasons under Mike McDaniel, 2022, 2023, 2024, McDaniel has won 4 games in a 5-game stretch each year. In year 1, it was a hysterical season, by the way, where you won 3, lost 3, won 5, lost 5, and then won 1 to finish the year 9-8, make the playoffs. But they won 5 in a row at one point. And then in year 2, you just had a lot of back and forth, but you started off hot. You ended up winning 5 games in a row at one point in that season as well. So there. And then last year, there was a part in early November to end of November where you won 4 out of 5 games. So it is capable, and there is a lot of history about Mike McDaniel having this team going on a winning streak. So is there a possibility of Miami making the playoffs? Well, right now that 7th spot is held by the Jacksonville Jaguars at 5-4. Is there a world where the Jags and Chiefs and the Texans and Ravens, who are above you right now, finish with 10 wins or worse? Sure there is. I mean, the Jags would have to go 5-3 in their next 8 games. That's very possible. The Chiefs, same thing, 5-3 in their next 8 games. They play the Broncos twice. They play the Chargers again. The Chiefs don't have an easy schedule. They play the Colts. So there are a lot of opportunities for the Jaguars, the Chiefs to lose. Now, I am concerned about the Baltimore Ravens, but here's the truth of this story. If you are an optimist, you play the Bengals. You play the Steelers. You would, hypothetically in the scenario, if you win those games, you beat them. You own the tiebreaker over them. And there is a world The Jaguars go 5-3. The Chiefs go 5-3. The Ravens actually win the division, and Pittsburgh ends up going 10-7 in its own right, and you would have the tiebreaker over. Like, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't believe it. I'm not trying to put hope into you just so you guys hang out and watch our content all year long. Because they will need to go 10-7. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. They will need to go 10-7. Do they do that? Probably not. But they'll probably be in the hunt. Like, they're going to win the next 3 games. I'm telling you right now, they're winning the next 3 games. They're going to be 6-7. And every time they show the in the hunt graphic, the Dolphins will be there at 6-7. But the chances of making the playoffs is not very likely. And I that's why I'm telling you, it's not probably going to happen. Like, the New York Times playoff simulator gives Miami a 39% chance to make the playoffs if they win out. It's under 1% right now. So if they win the next 7 games, go 10-7, they still only have a 39% chance to make it. So it's not very high. I'm here to tell you that. But there is a reason why we're still making this video. Because they will be in the hunt with these next 3 games that they have. And they also could ultimately extend the time that Mike McDaniel and Tua Tagovailoa have as member of the Miami Dolphins. Fill in the blank for me. The Dolphins have a blank % chance to make the playoffs. New York Times simulator says if they win out, it's 39%. But right now they have it as less than 1%. What is your percentage right now of the Dolphins making the playoffs? But the reason why there is legit intrigue here on what happens the rest of the way and if Miami rattles off a bunch of wins here is because if they ultimately do that, it could save Mike McDaniel's job in Miami for not just this year, but the future. It really could. I still think that Miami is better off firing Mike McDaniel, starting clean with a new head coach and a new GM this upcoming offseason starting in January. But if the Dolphins end up going, let's say in their final 7 games, 5-2, and you end the year 8-9, and McDaniel could go to the new GM, whoever they hire, or Stephen Ross and say, listen, I wasn't given a good roster by Chris Grier. It's why you fired him. Look what I did at the end of the year when we got humming here past the trade deadline. Oh, we just couldn't lose. We were great. We were 6-2 in those final 8 games. And that he might ultimately win that argument and be kept here in Miami. I don't think that's a crazy thing to say. Is it the right thing? I don't know. But I'm here to tell you there is a very high chance that Miami rattles off a bunch of wins here, ends up picking anywhere between 8 and 15, and Mike McDaniel is here coaching this team again next year. I think that's more likely. We gave a 39% chance to win out and make the playoffs. I think it's more likely that Mike McDaniel's coaching than next year than the Dolphins making the playoffs. Absolutely. We're going to talk about another piece of intrigue, but this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day. The right decisions on Prize Picks can get you paid, and with the season rolling on, the weather is changing, but the feeling of being right never gets old. All you just do is pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get your picks right, you could cash in. How you play is up to you. You want flexibility? Choose the flex play, where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. If you want the biggest payout, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. My picks for this upcoming Thursday night game, more than Breece Hall touchdowns, more than Drake May pass completions, and more than Travion Henderson rushing yards on his first attempt, 3.5. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Where there's even more intrigue, in my opinion, on if the Dolphins continue to rattle off wins and make themselves competitive down the stretch of the season. We talked about Mike McDaniel potentially saving his job, but how about the GM? The interim GM, Champ Kelly, filling in for Chris Grier. I mean, I don't really think he has that much legs to stand on unless he makes a couple big-time pickups in free agency or like on waivers from now until the end of the season. But like, could he go to Stephen Ross and say, hey, I took over and we went 8-2 or whatever it is? Maybe. Like, is Stephen Ross that dumb enough to believe he's the reason? No, Mike McDaniel certainly has a better case at that than Champ Kelly, unless Champ Kelly makes a great signing or something or a waiver claim. And I think keeping Champ Kelly would be a mistake. Like, I can get behind and the thought process behind keeping Mike McDaniel another season. I wouldn't be thrilled with it, but I could understand it from a football perspective. I don't think I could get behind and understand keeping Champ Kelly because you would just be taking results over process because it's like, what has he done to ultimately help the winning in Miami as interim GM? Nothing, right? He could be interviewed for the Dolphins, but I would certainly look to add someone coming from the outside, like a Chad Alexander or an Ed Dodds or a Kala from, what was his first name? Alec Hallaby. That's what I meant to say, from Philadelphia. Yeah, that's what I would rather do still. I'd rather hire one of those guys we just said and let them decide on the future of Mike McDaniel. Like if that new GM decides, hey, we can't really move off of Tua this offseason on the trade market or cut him, let's just keep Mike McDaniel. Those two know how to get the best out of each other. They've been working together for a long time. Let McDaniel and Tua be the head coach and quarterback combination again. We'll build around the team in the draft, not around Tua, but around the team. Like make good best player available selections at offensive line, defensive line, secondary, and try to build out a foundation. And if the Dolphins ultimately have a renaissance year next season where they are competitive and make the playoffs under Tua and McDaniel, then you could say, okay, well, good thing we didn't fire him and cut him. Maybe they can still be something here for us. But if they do what we expect them to do potentially and go 5-11 or 5-12 at this point, or 6-11, and then it's like, okay, well, now we can move off Tua, fire McDaniel, GM hires a new head coach, they draft a new quarterback or find a bridge option, and there you go. Like that's kind of what I think could happen here in Miami. And I want to make it abundantly clear once again, I don't think we make the playoffs. Like I'm not trying to say this is going to happen. I ultimately see us going 7-10. We got 7 games left. I think a 4-3 finish is very much on the table. I don't know how many times I could say it, and you're probably sick of me saying it already. The Dolphins will win their next 3 games. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. And it's like, all right, it's evident that Mike McDaniel needs to go because the Dolphins will be favored in each of the next 3 games. They're already favored against the Commanders. They're going to be favored coming out of a bye at home against the Saints, and they'll be favored on the road against the Jets. So if you win all those games as favorites, you're 6-7. And then you probably go 1-3 in the final month of the year against the Buccaneers, Patriots, Steelers, and Bengals. And that's how you finish 7-10. You probably pick 13-15, which sucks, but it's gonna happen. The team isn't quitting. If you want them to roll over and get better draft position, it ain't gonna happen. Did you see how hard they played for McDaniel in this game against Buffalo? Did you see the celebration between the coaching staff and the players and themselves after that win against Buffalo? They want it. And it's human nature. You don't want to lose. I mean, I know for a fact if I was a professional athlete, I couldn't give 2 shits about tanking. I'm going out there because I'm a competitor. I want to win every game. Same thing for these guys. They ain't going to quit. And if they don't quit and they continue to put their best foot forward week in, week out going forward, even if it's not a playoff level that they're putting forward, it's certainly a 500 level foot to where they probably go in 4-3 over the final 7. And we'll be here every step of the way the rest of the year, so subscribe and join us here for daily coverage of the Miami Dolphins. We're also live on game days, Thursdays, and day after games, so subscribe and join us. It's going to be fun to see how the season ultimately ends.